Soundstripe. Hey guys, and welcome to the Dads in Business podcast. And on today's podcast, we've got Chris Walters. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, not a problem. We actually just met yesterday, which is kind of cool. You're from Florida, right? Florida.
Yes, sir. Brooksville, Florida.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your family, if you don't mind.
Yeah, born and raised in Brooksville, Florida. Met Amber. That's who we know each other through.
Right.
My wife. Met her at my brother's wedding. I guess I figured once he got married, it's time for me to get married.
Yeah.
So, but born and raised in Brooksville, Florida. I got 3 beautiful daughters. Was actually an RN for 7 years as I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life.
Yeah.
And I own All Coast Roofing, and that's been doing pretty well. Me and my brother own it, and there's a third owner, a close friend of ours who we grew up with. And we all basically just take the responsibilities and split it between ourselves, and been doing a bunch of roofing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you went to RN school, right? And you got an RN degree, and then you got into roofing. Why such drastic change? Strictly curiosity.
I think the easiest way to explain that is to kind of just tell you the story of why I would be in roofing in the first place. It goes back to my grandfather. So my grandfather, and he owned restaurants, and they were from Pennsylvania, moved to California for a little while, so he did a whole bunch of different things. He owned restaurants and stuff like that, and then he moved down to Newport Richey in 1982 and opened a construction and roofing business.
Okay.
So him and my dad, it was my grandfather's business. Him and my dad did a bunch of roofs. I think they did remodeling and stuff like that until 96 when my grandfather passed away. My dad went out, got his license, and kind of continued on doing roofing and construction. So every summer, my dad would have my brother work for the roofing company or doing painting or whatever they needed to do. And I would do my best to avoid getting out there and actually doing anything roofing-wise. Rick's more hands-on. That's my brother. And I'm more of try to figure it out with my brain and not actually have to go out and do anything with my hands. Right. I've learned that anything I do with my hands, usually I need to have someone come help me figure out how to put it back together. So,
right.
So what we did is Rick really learned the trades. He knows how to do it all from metal roofing. He could build a whole house. Same with my dad. And like I said, I didn't really want to do that. So I guess I was about my future was going to be college and figuring out something to do that route. Okay. So once I actually met Amber, I was 19, just turned 20, I think. And she was living in Indiana, so we needed to either get very serious very quick or not be together type of thing. Right. So she quit her good job in Indiana and moved in with me like a month after I met her.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I don't know if I recommend that for everybody, but it did work out for us.
So I have a similar story, right? So me and my wife, we met in college in Indy. She's from Auburn, which is north side of Fort Wayne. And we went on a first date, and then she's lived with me ever since. Yep. And so you talk about the quick, short span there, right? So we were together 1 month. She found out she was pregnant, and so we've been together ever since. Yeah. Thankfully, that worked out. Exactly. But like you said, that's not for everybody, and I don't recommend anybody jumping that away, but it just happened to work out.
Yeah, absolutely. So she moved in with me, and basically we didn't have kids yet or anything, but we wanted to act like, okay, this is serious. We're probably going to get married. I was 20 years old with not really an exact plan on what I was doing. I was going to community college. I was trying to figure and working with my brother. He owns a painting business, and working with him as much as possible. It was also 2008 when I graduated, so a lot of construction work was really slowing down. So there's a little bit of a struggle with trying to, it was a lot on him to try to keep me busy, and I wouldn't. Sometimes he didn't have work, so we had to figure something out. She got a job at Chili's, and I got a job at Sonny's Barbecue, and I went back to college trying to figure out what's the quickest thing I can do to make money for family.
Right.
And nursing was a 2-year degree, and it ended up being you had to have a decent amount of college in before you could start the 2-year program.
I got you.
So I went in. I did. It took me 3.5 years to do all the prerequisites and get my AS degree in nursing. And I knew day one of clinicals, I hated nursing.
Yeah.
So literally the first day that we went into the hospital, I was like, I do not like this. There's so much trauma and so much things that people are going through that you need good people there to take care of people. But it's just, I want to see happy things. I want to be there and talk about happy stuff.
Right.
So, but at the same time, I was at that point at least 1.5 years in. So I was like, well, I'm not about to just stop this. At that point, we were going to get married and we were going to start trying to have kids.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, we need to make real money, not just working with my brother or at Sonny's Barbecue money.
Right.
So I continued through, got my RN, actually went back online while I was working and got my bachelor's degree in nursing. Worked for a year and a half on a telemetry floor, and then decided, well, I don't enjoy nursing. I don't like being in the hospital for 13 hours a day, driving an hour to work and an hour home. Even though it's only 3 days a week, I wanted to do something where I could be outside a little bit more, or just be a little more in control of my time. I really enjoyed talking with patients. Like, that's the best part. It's really giving these people the respect. I talked to so many World War II veterans and would just hear real life stories. Like you could have made a movie about half the people that I was taking care of.
Right.
And that's the one thing I didn't see. Even really good nurses, a lot of them didn't seem to give maybe the respect due to some of the people that I thought that they, people treated like kids sometimes when you're taking care of them. And I'm like, you were a pilot, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so that was my best part, was patients would react to me treating them like a person and not just another patient. And
right.
I liked that part, but I knew I didn't want to stay there forever. So my brother had been working for a company and Joel, the third owner, they'd been kind of found a niche where they were doing TPO roofs. They're doing mobile homes and commercial.
For us that don't know what TPO is.
A TPO it's basically the stuff you're going to see on any commercial building. Every Walmart and Target, that's all going to be TPO on top. The scientific is thermopolyolefin. It's a little much, but it's basically you're basically getting a pool liner on your roof that is super thick and durable and it's going to last a long time.
So like a rubber roof style?
Yeah, it's rubber. It comes in rolls, and you heat weld it together, and it really just becomes a single system. And it's really good for anything that's low slope. So
that's
mobile
cool.
homes, there's a lot of the mobile homes are lower than a 212 pitch or even a 312 pitch. You don't see it a lot on residential homes that are block homes, because the low slope, you don't see it as much. You don't want to see it. It's just white. It's not pretty, but It does keep water out of your house. So that's a good thing. So they were doing that, and they were driving around the state. They would drive to Fort Myers from Brooksville. They would drive 2 hours one way and work until dark. They'd have to finish it, or they wouldn't make any money if they had to come back the next day and drive that far.
For sure.
So they were making good money, but not crazy money, just splitting it between each other. And I knew that I didn't want to do nursing. So I was like, hey, why don't I start studying, get my roofing license. I've been around construction my whole life through my dad and grandfather and all that. Why don't we start a business together and stop giving all the profits away? So first they didn't love the idea. They were like, well, we would like to do it, but life gets in the way, and it's hard to stop working long enough to go start a business.
For sure.
Right. So probably another year or two went by, and I went, listen, guys, I'm not waiting for you guys. I went to night shift. I said, I'm going to make the most money I can in nursing. What's the highest paying? Okay, night shift. That stinks, but I'll make more money, and it'll make it worth going to the hospital. Mobile pool. I would go to any hospital that they wanted me to go to. So they'd call me at 5 a.m. and say, you got to go to Winter Haven, which is an hour and a half away. But you get paid more. So it made it worth my time to go.
Right.
So while I was on night shift, I started studying for the to get my roofing license. And there's two sides. There's the roofing side and the business side. And I think it took me 2 years before I felt really ready to, well, probably a year, but I'd worked night shift for 2 years. But I started studying after a year. So I went in and got my roofing license. And my mom's the big paperwork person for my dad's business. So she helped me a lot with starting the business.
Right.
Going through the process, making sure that everything's right, all the paperwork, making sure that you actually know what you're doing. And we started a business slowly. So Rick was still doing his paint work. He was still doing some roofs. And at that point, I think he stopped working for that roofing company. So he was basically just doing his paint and trim business. Joel had gotten married and was actually doing something else. So it was just me and my brother who had started the business together. And what we did is we both had full-time jobs. Nobody had to go gung-ho, let's make this business work today.
Right.
Sorry, we have the business, now let's figure out really how to run it. And I think the first year we did, I think we did 2 or 3 roofs, and we were done. I got my license in March, or started the business in April, the first week of May. Didn't really start doing a roof or 2 until maybe August, October.
Okay.
So we didn't do any marketing. We didn't do anything. It was just word of mouth, and we had no reason to push. But we had everything we needed to go and start. We got kind of lucky through a friend. Hey, they need a roof. Give them a surprise. Did our first one. Felt amazing to actually have a check in our hand for something that wasn't our full-time job.
Right.
That was awesome. And from there, so I think we did $12,000 the first year, which was only 2 roofs or something like that.
Right.
And then the second year we did $80,000 in sales, which was still very slow. That's still, 10 or 12 roofs, one a month, something like that. We were both busy, but we could focus on a roof for a week out of the month. And I was handling all the phone calls. That wasn't much at all at the beginning.
Right.
And then it just started. We started learning by doing. So now we had a little bit of a process. All right, we know what we're doing. We were on each of the roofs. I was actually on some of the first roofs, probably just more in the way than anything. But Rick was doing it, man. He was shingling and
so
tearing
just the
it
two
off.
of you, or did you have anybody come help you?
So we had a couple of guys who worked for his painting business.
Okay.
And they were helping us at first.
And they're like, screw this, man. Look, I'm not a roofer.
I signed up for painting. What is this?
There's a huge difference in the workload.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So from there, we started kind of getting a little better at, it's not really sales, because I still hate the word sales. Started sounding like we knew what we were talking about a little bit more, not just actually knowing. Rick knows how to do everything, so I was starting to sound on the phone like I wasn't a nurse who owned a roofing business.
Right.
So, and from there, I think the third year we did like fivefold. We did like fivefold each year until COVID hit, and I was already ready to get out of nursing. So I worked through COVID for about 6 months, and I got a random phone call. Hey, we're a roofing crew looking for work. And I said, well, Rick's been wanting to get off the roof, so why don't you send me some pictures of your work, and let's see how you do. So we got all our paperwork squared away. Rick showed up at the roof probably at 8 a.m., and the guys had been there since 7:30, and he immediately was like, these guys are amazing. They had the whole roof almost torn off by 8 o'clock. So, of course, new crew, something like that, they're working for your name. You're all over quality control for a while.
For sure.
So we worked for this crew for like a year, trying to get enough work to keep them around, so they're not looking for anybody else to work for. And we started to get maybe 2 roofs a week, and that was a huge difference, because then you're talking real income at that point.
For sure.
So I actually finally decided, hey, I think it's time that I can actually step away from nursing, which was an amazing feeling.
Right.
So I stepped away. We started putting a little bit more money into leads and into marketing, and we brought Joel in somewhere along the way to do our TPO work while Rick was handling the shingle work, and I was basically doing all the paperwork, answering the phone call, secretary, accountant, all that.
Right.
And have a really good team going, and it's really just grown from there. So, I mean, numbers wise, it's been really fun to watch. To remember getting our first maybe $6,000 or $7,000 check, to getting, 15 of those in a month. So
Right.
it's been really awesome to watch it grow, and it's been a real process of just learning how to do it. The best part for us is sometimes there's mistakes, but because we're not growing too fast, and because we have people who can handle every aspect of the job. We can go in and make every customer happy. Hey, this didn't go right here. We're gonna fix it. No worries. No extra charge. We'll take care of you. And we've really been able to grow our business on the back of our reviews. Our Google reviews is huge.
Yep.
And I know there's a lot of people who can you can buy reviews, but it's been an integrity portion. The integrity portion of our job is so big for me and Rick and Joel that we did my dad's roof, and I wouldn't even let him give us a review. I was like, no, that your family doesn't count. So we're so proud of our reviews. I think we've got close to 100 5-star Google reviews, and the only 4-star one we have on there was from a guy we've done 4 roofs for. So I don't know why he clicked 4.
I get that. So at work, obviously, I'm not full-time business yet. I get to work still, which is fine. And if you sell a new Chrysler or Ford product, you get a survey at the end of it, right? Which is 1 through 10, which is terrible.
Right.
Because everybody's like, oh, I'll just give them a 6 or an 8, and that's good.
Sure.
Well, in Ford and Chrysler's eyes, that's not good. That's failing.
You're right.
The real answer is it has to be a 9 or a 10, or you failed as a organization. So you try not to coach your customers, but you're like, hey, just so you know, you're going to get a survey. Only thing that's acceptable is a 9 or a 10. So if I've not done something, please let me know. And when you're doing the survey, I don't want you to lie on it. So if you get to something and it is only that I only did a 5 or a 6 job on it, let me know what it is that I could do better so that in the future I don't have that issue. Thankfully, all of my reviews on Google as well for my business and for the car lot are both fantastic.
Awesome. It's
because
huge.
For me, the customer service side of things is the biggest part of it.
Absolutely.
I believe 110%, even if you make a mistake, like you were saying, if you make it right or take care of your customer, that's going to come back and help you out a ton.
Well, we don't make a lot of mistakes, but I will say that the customers who will go above and beyond to tell their community how great you are is when you fix a problem.
Yeah.
Like you go out of your way when they think they're going to be left in the rearview mirror and they're going to have to figure something out, and you go in and go above and beyond to fix it, they will. I mean, you've earned a lifetime customer at that point.
For sure.
Yeah. For nursing was the same way. And it's not really coaching. You have to tell them, if you put an 8, I failed.
Right.
Because they're going to say, I mean, that's pretty good, but you have to, and you can say, put an 8 if that's what I earned. But, so what I usually do is I'll send out we don't have any automated review links.
Right.
We could, and I actually have the availability. I think I pay for it, but I like to be more personal, and that's one of the reasons we're considering never growing too much bigger than we are right now. Is I'll send a text message to every customer going, hey, if we earned a 5-star review, please go ahead and click this link if you have time. And then anybody who's going to have anything bad to say, bad enough to give you a review, they're not going to wait for you to send them a link. You know what I mean? They're going to find you and put down what they think about you.
For sure.
We've lucked out. We've had really great customers. I think there's a little bit of a weeding out process. Sometimes you have a phone call with somebody and you just go, I don't want to work for that person. I can tell right now that's not going to be a good thing. There's no way we're going to make that person happy, even if we do knock it out of the park.
Right.
So I think that's huge. Learning, and as you're growing, it is so hard to turn away work.
Sometimes you got to say no. You
Yes,
have to learn how to say,
absolutely.
hey, I don't want this.
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes we've done work for a couple people that we've done great work, and we've had a negotiation argument at the end, and that's just that's not my personality. I get so stressed out. I'm going, this is what our contract is. This is what it says to pay us. I don't know where did we go? Where did we not live up to that? But some people, especially very wealthy people, I think their funnest thing to do is to barter for a lower price. You know what I mean?
For sure.
They enjoy it. I don't enjoy it. It's stressful. It makes me feel like I'm doing something wrong if I have to have any type of minimal argument even about the end of the job. You know what I mean, tell me where we went wrong, or tell me what you need me to do. But also, you signed the contract to pay us for the job that we're doing. So as long as we're in agreement that we did everything,
right,
I don't see why we're having this chat at the end.
For sure.
Yeah. So
a funny story, and what I'm getting ready to say makes me sound like a terrible person sometimes, and I don't mean it this way, because coupons are fantastic. Okay, but one of the owners of my Ford and Chrysler store will not go out to eat unless he has a coupon. And he's very wealthy.
doing fine.
Yeah, he doesn't need the coupon.
Yeah.
But if he can save 45 cents, he's going to save 45 cents.
Yeah.
And, to each their own.
I think if it's bringing someone, if that's what you're living for and it makes you happy at the end of the day, I get it. I just don't want to. I don't want to work for you again.
Right.
Because I don't want to have this conversation. Because they're always so happy when we're done arguing.
Right.
They're like, okay, great. And then they send the check. And I'm like, what just happened?
Right. Nothing changed.
Yep.
And here we are.
Yeah. But my day was ruined for a couple hours there. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I take it to heart. I want, everything was perfect. And it's never perfect. Very rarely is it perfect. But I want it. That's what I'm striving for.
Right.
Yeah.
So you talked about, finally spending some money on some leads and marketing. What do you guys do? I'm assuming you use like a CRM. You probably capture email addresses. Do you do email campaigns?
So we've tried to stay away from CRMs as much as possible.
Curiosity, why?
Well, first of all, I don't have a lot of experience with it, and I've built everything that we do from the ground up, probably like it was the late 90s, not using any of the new software. I mean, I'm using Excel, but I know it because I built it.
Right.
I've changed it each year. I need to pay more attention to this. I need to do this. And there's probably tons about CRM that I don't know, maybe all of it.
Right.
But I also have heard, different stories of once you sign up for a CRM, they kind of own a lot of your information. So if it doesn't work out, you've already put a bunch of money into a different company. There's a bunch of different ones that come up, and they sometimes it can be hard to get your information out to start over. Like I just started using QuickBooks, and a month later I went, nope, I don't like this. I want to go back to the way I'm doing it.
Right.
So that's probably an issue I have. I probably need to get over that, especially if we do decide to get bigger.
Right.
But there's definitely a lot I still need to learn about that portion. For me, it's I always say you got to step outside your comfort zone to grow.
Right.
And you have to not wait, just do it.
Right.
It comes in your head, you just do it. And that's what me and my brother have learned in the last couple of years, because we'll talk about a goal in for next year, and then multiple times we've just been like, well, why don't we do that tomorrow instead of next year? And it's worked. And we've got lucky, but we've put the work in and put more hours on our week and made it happen.
Right.
So I would say that's a big deal, but it's hard for me to, even though I wish I had a smoother operating system, a little bit easier system to where I could get all the info to all the customers without making a phone call to each one each time, without telling the employees, this is what you have to do today. Here's another list, another list and another list. That's what I'm comfortable with. And because we don't have tons of employees, other than the crews, it's just me, Joel, and Rick. So it's the three owners, and I do everything paperwork-wise, and I take every phone call. So, and we're actually running a pretty busy business right now.
Right.
So I would almost need to get to a point where I could hire someone to do my job so that I could stop working. You know, you hear it all the time, stop working in your business so you can work on your business.
Right.
That's our next step. Somewhere in there is looking at not just trying to find another person to put a roof on, but another person to come in and help with the books. And then I can do the proper research, because I get calls and emails, 4 times a week for a new CRM company. And I spend the time with each one of them for a long time. I wouldn't just hang up on people. I'd say, all right, well, tell me what it is, because you might have something. And, so I'm that guy that they all thought, oh, goodness, this guy didn't hang up. I might actually get to make a sale. And so I'd spend an hour with some of these people. I'd go on, they'd get on the computer, they'd showed me what they offer, and I said, that's great. I'm not ready to jump to that yet, because a lot of it, so we built this from the ground up, and each time we haven't outgrown what we're doing, but we're close. We're close to probably needing some outside help with software.
Right.
But until then, every person you hire is less money you get to keep, and we already don't pay ourselves that much because we're trying to grow a business. So.
Right. Well, and so the backside of that is even if you use a CRM or if you use paper books, right, which is what sounds like you're using as Excel and doing your own robust style CRM, if you don't use your CRM correctly, you might as well just do it on paper. The thing that I like about CRM is it helps. I'm not affiliated with any CRMs first and foremost, but I use them, and I have used them for the last 10 years. And the thing that I like the most about it is you can kind of schedule your day in there with appointments, because you, like in the CRM we use currently, you can put in your appointments. And so you can just put an appointment, and it'll give you a notification, and it sends them an email as well. It says, hey, you have an appointment at this time with this person.
Yep.
And it logs phone calls and emails, and it gives you reminders to call them. So the thing I really like is the stuff that falls through the crack. It does a really good job to help you stop that kind of stuff. So, but they can be expensive. So kind of, you kind of have to figure out what makes the most sense. If you're doing everything on paper, if it's costing you, I don't know, if it's costing you a job a month, then a CRM's worth it.
Sure.
As long as it doesn't cost you a job a month anymore.
Right.
But currently I'm in the same boat. My business obviously has not grown to the size of yours, but I don't have a CRM or anything. I'm doing everything with making notes, using my phone and my calendar and that kind of thing to kind of control it. So
as you're talking about that, some of the things that are popping into my head are, we have through our website company, we have people can go online and they can set up an appointment with us.
That's cool.
That's great, but I can't get to the appointments exactly because I don't have extra people sitting around waiting.
Right.
It's me, Rick, and Joel, and one of them's usually running the shingle crew. The other person's either doing a repair or doing a sales call that we got the day before. So I have to call people when I get one of those and say, hey, thanks for giving me a call. I'd love to come out and see your roof or set up in a meeting. But we'll have to figure out when we can get there, try to do it as soon as possible. I have to make a phone call to Rick and say, hey, are you going to be free this afternoon, and then make it happen. So there's a little bit of a downfall there. We don't have enough people to make that happen all the time.
Right.
But we also don't have any dead time. I mean, so it's a good thing and a bad thing.
Right.
It'd be good to be able to just have somebody who's ready to go, but that also means that they're not doing anything when they got that message. So, like I said, there will be a time where we need to have a couple free employees, and it's hard to especially when you're concerned about the quality and your reputation. It can be difficult to hire anyone to go represent yourself. So I know if I send Rick or I send Joel, or if I'm on a phone call, I really care about how that conversation goes with that other person.
Right.
So it's difficult, and there's great salesmen that I know that we could probably hire, but it's also not just about the sale. So we would never want to sell a roof for twice as much as it should cost to somebody who doesn't understand what they're doing.
Right.
So you go into a mobile home park and sell all the old ladies twice as expensive roofs because you're a very sweet and great salesman. That's not what we could do it. We'd make a lot of money, but that's just not what we're about. And we like that we can say that confidently to anyone. Hey, go check my review. And if I am more expensive, just compare and contrast and tell me if you're comfortable with them at a lower price, go for it. But maybe check their reviews too.
Right. Right, for sure. Sometimes you pay what you get.
Yeah, well, I don't like to say that either because I feel like we should be the most expensive roofing company ever.
Right.
But we're not, so I don't want to say that. Because, yeah, you pay for what you get, but we want to keep our one crew so busy. They're so good. They're knocking out 5-6 roofs a week. That's hard to sell that many roofs in a week.
For sure.
If you're
I can imagine.
If you don't have salesmen out there just doing it all day, every day. So we're still very competitive with anybody, and we've got busy enough before where I could start to raise my price to a little better price, and the sales went pretty much almost just as well, and then we'd hit a slow point and we'd have to bring their prices back down to absolute minimum. And then I'd like to be 6 weeks out, but it is hard to have 36 to 40 roofs lined up.
Right.
Yeah. So that's kind of where we're at with taking the next step is a big step. We might have to hire 3 people to not do any work, physical work. It might be a salesperson, a secretary, and somebody that just is running materials in order to get us to that next step, which would be fine, and we can do it. And if that was our goal for sure, we would just go, okay, let's do it. Not next year. Let's do it.
Right.
We're not sure if we want that because quality control goes down when you start needing a second crew and a third crew, and then I don't know who's on my job site after I have 8 crews.
Right.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
So, and we're doing great. So I don't know how much more the only thing that makes me want to grow a little bit more and have those other people is so that I can maybe enjoy a weekend off every once in a while.
Right.
or come up here to visit Amber's family and you guys and be able to turn my phone off. That would be great.
Right.
Because I take so many calls out there golfing. I can't complain to Rick because he's like, you're golfing, so don't complain to me.
Right. Which is fair.
Yeah, right.
I guess. You know what I mean? And sometimes if you can hire those people and your quality of life gets better and you make a little less money, sometimes that's okay. But I want my quality of life to get better and make more money.
Yeah.
Because that's the way it's supposed to work because I'm putting everything I can into a business.
Exactly.
So.
Well, before you move on, exactly. So I'm 33. I don't need to work less for 20 years.
Right.
I can work if this business is what I'm going to work in, I can work 50, 60, 70 hours a week in this business and be happy.
Right.
If we do decide to grow and I get too much time off, I'm going to start another business.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's going to be, it's a little bit of a catch-22, although there'd be a lot more money at that point too. So
right.
That's a plus. You can't say that doesn't buy you more freedom and a little less stress to have more money. So,
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that was going to be one of my questions later was, where do you go from here? Are you going to grow the business? Are you going to have another business? For me, good, bad, or indifferent, I don't know how to not work. Mm-hmm. I don't know how to take it slow today's my day off and I've been at the house for an hour.
Yeah.
So, and not all of it's been, go, work, but 90% of it is.
Well, if I'm not doing something for fun that I'm there doing exactly to have a good time, and I'm not working, then what am I really doing in
right.
between? So why not? Our work, my side is less physical than everybody's. It's very stressful, but it's also very fun. I love adding the numbers up at the end of the week and going, hey, we nailed it again this week. That's amazing. It's fun,
right?
To make money and to have success and to get customer satisfaction is not just something people are saying. It makes me happy when we get a new review, and I'll text it out to Rick and Joel. Go, hey, look at this. So the growth thing, It's kind of just like I said, I don't know what we want to do yet. We're pretty comfortable with how much we've grown in the last 2 years, probably.
Yeah.
That we don't need to jump. We don't need to do that next jump yet. And we're kind of considering, hey, let's just stay here for a little bit. But there's totally other options. My dad builds homes, and if we could get to where the roofing company was running without me, Rick, or Joel, I'd probably go, let's go build 6 custom homes this year. I'll go get my builder's license. I'll just, we'll do it. I've worked enough with Dad to have and Rick knows how to do it all. We've been a part of my dad building 12 to 20 homes a year. Rick used to, with his paint business, would do almost all of the work other than the concrete, the plumbing, the electric, and the framing. So he would do it all. So he would do all they would do the flooring, the cabinets, the trim, doors, paint, windows, roof. They do it all. So we know how to do it. But there's do you want to make the roofing company a $20 million a year roofing company, or do you want to keep it at $3 to $5 million and start a new company? That's just options.
Right.
So we just kind of see where that goes.
Yeah.
Plus, I've heard tons of stories that a $20 million roofing company doesn't make more money than a $5 million roofing company if you have 100 more employees. You know
sure.
what I mean? And how much more headache and exposure do you have and liability?
Right.
So I think that the perfect point for a roof for what we would like is probably a $5 million a year in sales.
Right.
And that would be bigger than we are now. Probably about twice as big, or just 1.5 times as big, and we would have to hire more people. But I think that would be the perfect point. Hey, we have maybe 2, maybe 3 crews,
right?
But they're all amazing, and I don't have to worry about quality control. I don't have to check on these guys because they're so good. That's how we are with our first crew. We're there in the mornings, and we're there if they need anything, but we don't have to be. And they treat our customers amazing.
Well, and that's what, man, it's hard to find.
It is. That's why you got to pay them so well.
Right. You pay for what you get.
Yeah.
You got to pay for good people if you want good people. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, like we was talking about before, my dad is roughly 7 years from retiring. Mm-hmm. He says that the minute he can retire and collect a check, he's going to. He's not. He may retire from where he works and just do what he likes, but it's not that.
He'll do it for 3 minutes.
Right. Yeah. So I want to have our business up and going, and it's something that we're working towards. Rather, it's just trailer rentals, and it grows into something else, or like I said, it's trucking or whatever we're wanting to get into. Really, it's for him to have a retirement plan.
Sure.
I do it for him and for my children.
Yeah.
So that whenever they get of age, I can say, here you go.
Yep.
And so, but my mind never shuts off. I'm always thinking about, what if we did this business, or what if we did this direction in our business, and what could change there. So what do you think? So what is it that you do for marketing now? When you say you buy leads, where do you get your leads in marketing from?
So we use a company called Networks,
okay.
And it's really just to supplement the phone calls that are already coming in. So we have a really nice looking website that we use, a company called Thrive. They do our website, and they'll do something like 10 posts, social media posts a month on our Facebook and our Google, and I go in and try to fill every other day up with a picture of actual work. And so we usually try to have something every single day that goes out on our Facebook and on our Google business profile. So it keeps it relevant, and it keeps Google likes that. Google will start to move your website up on their search pages. So we're doing well there. We pay for a really nice website. We use the leads through Networks, and we've tried Angie's List and that, which is Home Advisor, and we would get let's say we would get 10 leads in. Gosh, I don't know if I ever got a really good qualified lead through Angie's List. My brother said, when he was first starting out, they were great when they were smaller. Mm-hmm. He said, but once we started to get in with the roofing, it's it's so competitive, and there's real salesmen out there. And I'm probably not going to compete with someone who's willing to say whatever they want to get a job.
For sure.
And when a salesman's paid by commission on the jobs he sells, I get it. He's trying to make a sale. We just try to go in and be super honest, try to give a most competitive price as possible. And we do well with sales, but when it comes to some of the leads that are going to a lot of people, it's hard to compete without having that salesman mentality. But what we've learned is Networks, who my brother also was using through his paint and trim business, so he told me to start there. They're pretty good. So let's say we put $1,200 in for 2 weeks, and we're going to get a roofing lead is between $60 and $90 just for a phone number and an address and a name. So it's hard to start buying those because it's like, man, that's a lot of money.
Right.
But when you start converting, like let's say you sell a $40,000 roof on a lead that you would never have got a phone call from, it makes you a little more interested in doing that. So and the other good thing about Networks is if they send me someone and that I never get a hold of that person, the person says, I did not sign up for this, about 70% of the time they'll give me my money back for that lead, which is huge for a lead company.
For sure.
Yeah, and I would not deal with any lead companies if they didn't do that, which is why we only use Networks. And sometimes they don't, and I go, all right, you got me on that one, but we've made enough money on the other ones this week, so we're fine.
Right.
You got to give them a little bit too. So we do the website, try to post on Facebook and Google. Probably need to get an Instagram set up at some point because it's just one more click to get more stuff out there in front of people. We have the website. We do the Networks leads from time to time. And other than that, word of mouth, once you start doing 6-7 roofs a week, that's a lot of people that you talk to in the community.
Right.
Word of mouth is huge. What we've really been cashing in on is treating realtors really well.
Yeah.
So, hey, I know you need a repair.
Yep. We
will come do your repair, and we'll knock it out quickly and for a good price. And yes, you need a roof certification. Sure, we got to get paid to come out there, but we'll make it happen as long as the roof's qualified for a certification, and we'll do it cheap. So I had one realtor who's a close friend. She called to me and she goes, "Listen, why do you need $200 to certify the roof?" And I said, "Well," she goes, "this other company does it for free." And I said, "Well, how many times have they certified the roof and not said you need a new roof?" She went, "Never." I said, "That's why you have to pay me to come out and tell you your roof's okay, because I'm not going to try to sell you a $14,000 roof that doesn't need it."
Right.
Because it's not coming out of the realtor's pocket. So really, they, if they're working with a customer that is just going to kind of go along to get that every house in Florida is $300,000 now. If they have to spend 10 to get it sold, they will.
Right.
So that's the other thing with realtors. I've had to tell realtors before, I don't care that you want this to go away quickly. There's an issue with the roof, and my name's going to be on it when you sell it to the person that you don't care about either.
Right.
The new person knows that I was on the job, and they're going to call me when there's an issue.
Right.
I'm not going to ever certify anything that I'm not comfortable with, and I'm also not ever going to do a repair and guarantee everything's done if I don't feel that that's the way it's going to be. So I've had to kind of weed out some realtors who would be willing to just get by to make it happen for a sale, because we just won't do it. And most of them actually understand. Most of them are like, all right, I get it. So if they had to do it, maybe they'll call somebody else. But if you just have a conversation with your seller and say, hey, they don't want to do a stupid job just to get you sold because they have integrity. They're usually like, okay, I get it. You know what I mean? Most people are pretty reasonable.
For sure.
So realtors, word of mouth, some leads through Networks, and our website that does help with the posting extra posts. They do blogs on which basically is just to get on Google's radar to move you up to the first page.
Right.
Yeah.
So, strictly out of curiosity, you don't have to tell me an exact figure if you don't want to. You don't have to tell me a figure at all. But what do you figure you pay Thrive a month for that service?
I think we pay $3,800 a month.
Okay.
And we're having monthly meetings. And I've told them, I said, guys, that's almost $50,000 a year.
Right.
I said, if I'm not getting any more phone calls, and I love the guys there, like really love them. I said, so we'll try this out for 6 months. And if I'm not smiling that it's costing this much money, I'm going to get rid of it.
Right.
So I'm like, because I'll pay $50,000 a year if I never have to worry about that phone ringing again.
Right.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
So I said, if I'm not so happy to spend this money with you, then I won't. But let's give it a chance, because that is really the next step. Kind of, where else do I go?
Right.
You know, we need to get more phone calls if you're not just going to pay for leads that half the time are bogus. If you want to get the phone calls, and it's not just word of mouth, you have to get on the internet and get on the first page.
For sure.
So we try it, and you know, I don't know if they're the best company, but they seem to be trying really hard. They always have a whole bunch of data that I don't understand that they go over with me every month, and I try to understand it, and it seems to be. I mean, the phone's been ringing a lot, so
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's all because of them, but if it's not broke and we can afford it and we're happy, then I'm going to stay with them.
For sure.
Thing, you know.
Yeah, I was just curious.
Absolutely. Yeah, because it's a lot. I had to tell Rick. I said, Rick, we're paying this. He goes, that's $50,000 a year. It's like, shh. You know, let's give it a try.
Let's see if it works.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, if it's 50, but it makes you 450,
Exactly.
it's worth every penny.
And that really is, you know, I've had to deal with my parents be like, what do you can't spend any money on, like, if the money's coming in, I'm perfectly willing to give these people what they're asking. Do you know what I mean? And it's and who knows, I might find out in 2 years that never helped.
Right.
And at that point, I would get rid of it and go, all right, let's try something else. But I would also be happy to never find out it's not helping if it doesn't help at all.
Right.
So if we're making so much money that I don't need to look into it, that's also okay, because I do love our website.
Right, for sure. No, so my in my businesses along the years, you know, Dad is really reserved when it comes to that, and I'm like, why are you doing that? Why you? That doesn't sound like it's a good idea. And I've made money in my other businesses. It's not like they've been a complete failure. And there's been some that I got done with, and I'm like, shit, I should have just listened to him on that one.
Oh, yeah.
But I say that to say that I don't care.
Yeah.
You can tell me that in the podcast from last night or yesterday, I'm too dumb to quit. I'm telling you.
No, I hear you.
So I just don't know any other way, and I don't know. You just keep digging, and at some point, something's going to stick and work, and you'll be okay.
You got to try things, and we have. So with Thrive, we had a situation. We had a system where we were spending $2,000 a month, and we were spending $1,400 a month on direct Google leads, where they would put something up, and we would get direct calls. And at the end, I told them I'd give them 6 months with that, and they called me after. You know, my guy, Paul, who I speak with pretty often, or at least twice a month, and we have a face-to-face meeting, or a Zoom meeting once a month with the whole crew. He calls me, or he texts me one day. He goes, "Hey, these leads aren't working out." And I said, "Yeah, they're not working out. Just they're a lot of them were coming from just a little bit too far out." And I was going, you know, and the $1,400 I think was getting divided into like $80 leads. So there's only so many phone calls you were going to get.
Right.
And they would record them, and they would have, they would know how I was doing if I was answering, and a lot of them were unqualified leads. So they would start to just give me they knew that I was willing to spend some money to figure that stuff that works. I will spend the money if it's working.
Right.
So they gave me all my money back for all those leads and said, let's just switch it into driving more people to the website, getting the website on the first page of Google, because that is a huge deal.
Right.
So I said, all right, I'm happy with them for giving me my money back for something that they noticed wasn't working. I noticed too, but like I said, I was going to give them 6 months before. I was like, this is not for me.
Right.
They were like, it's been 3 months. This is not working. Let's figure something else out. And I liked that. I'm like, so you're not just treating me as a paycheck coming in. You're
right,
actually,
which is nice.
Yeah. That's huge.
And that's, at the end of the day, that's your core.
They know, yes, and they know that I will leave after 6 months. So it's in their best interest to make it work for me.
Right.
And they seem to be trying.
That's awesome.
And the phone's ringing, So I don't know if it's 100% from Google. Like I said, a lot of people are just on Facebook now, and a lot of people are, and word of mouth is bigger because you post something in the local Facebook page and you get 300 people who are saying, go with these guys, go with these guys.
Yep.
So I don't know what's working. We're trying to spread out into as many little things that we can feel comfortable and afford, and kind of figure it out. I don't know a ton about it.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to dabble in little areas, and I do think that that's a pretty good core. We have your website. Yeah, it costs a lot of money, but it's not insane. I know one of the big roofing companies in our area is spending something like $16,000 a month just on their trying to be. But if you look up flooring, that roofing company's name is the first one that comes up on the top, and you're going,
Right.
well, I didn't even look for roofers. What is happening?
Right.
So they're getting their money's worth too, but I don't need that many phone calls.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. At some point, you're going to get too big, and you're going to have to turn away a bunch of work, and you're not going to be big enough for all the work that could be coming in, right? And so, a friend of mine here in town that owns a construction company started out. He worked full time and did gutters on the side, and now he's full time gutters, just construction in general. But seamless gutters is like where he got started.
Yeah.
And I was having a conversation with him a couple months ago, and he's like, I'm at that point where I got to figure out if I want to just stay, if I'm comfortable where I'm at. Kind of same situation as you is, I'm comfortable where I am, and I've got a couple good guys that work for me, and I either need to hire more and go bigger, or I need to just stay where I am and live life comfortably. And so he's trying to figure out which way, because it's very difficult to find people, and then it's difficult to find people that you trust. It's difficult all around when it comes to business.
That's one of, that's one of the main reasons that I do want to branch out in a couple of places. We have found some incredible people. So we have a guy, Mark, and he's in my phone as Mark Drywall. If there's anything drywall needed, we call him, and he goes and treats customers just as well as we would, and he does amazing work. And we usually have to pay him more than what he asks us to pay him, because he doesn't need a ton of money for these jobs. And we go, no, that was worth more. Take some,
Right.
Be happy when you show up to the job to work for us.
Right.
And he has his own company, so it's a subcontracted deal. But he also can do anything. He can do soffit and fascia. He can do gutters. I'm like, do I need to go buy a van for the gutter? Because the gutters come in sheets of metal that you can make right there on the job.
Right.
Like, do I need to go spend the money and just? I would hardly even have to advertise. I have to turn away so many soffit, fascia, and gutter calls through my roofing business already. Why not capitalize on that? That
For
guy's
sure.
amazing, and we can make him a ton of money while he makes us a ton of money.
Right.
That's a huge step we could take, and that is on the table. But that takes some brain power and some time away from the roofing business, and that's the one thing that would probably help our business. If me, Rick, and Joel could sit down and talk business once a week,
Right.
because we're just go from without any of the talk is this is what needs to be done now, this is what needs to be done tomorrow, this needs to be done next week. There's not a ton of times where we can sit down and talk about what work we're doing, but what to work on.
Right.
Also, very difficult to get them two in one room and not talk about hunting and fishing. So
Right.
I have to tell them, like, guys, listen, we got to talk about, we have a chance here.
Right.
Let's talk about some important stuff first. Because we all hunt and fish together. So
That's awesome.
That's nice. Yeah. Yeah. So there's a lot of different options, which is exciting. And like you said, your brain's always going. Mine was. It used to be every day, hey, I got this $1 million idea, Dad. What do you think about this? And you go, no, that's dumb. All right. And I call him the next day, or call my brother, or Rick would call me, and then we'd both call Dad. What about this? And I promise you, 3 out of the 12,000 we came up with would have worked if we would have did it. So he still calls me sometimes with new ideas. I go, hey, we have it right here in front of us. If you want to make all that money, we can do it with this business. You just have to come work with us and help us grow it.
Right.
Do you want to or not? You know what I mean? Because I understand if you don't want to, because it's stressful. It's a lot of work, but it can also be really rewarding. It can be really fun.
For sure.
To really do good work and hear good feedback. That's probably the most rewarding part about it.
Yeah. And so my dad is, at the end of the day, he's at that point in his life where he really doesn't want to work super hard.
Absolutely, I
He's
get it.
50-something years old, and he's 7 years from retirement. He's like, I just don't, I want to. He's all in with helping,
Sure.
right? But and I want him to have something to do. Mm-hmm. I know a bunch of people that retired and just quit working and sitting there, and then they die, and that's not what I want.
Well, as a nurse, not to interrupt, I used to tell. I met multiple 98-year-old ladies who had watched 2 sets of friends die.
Yeah.
They'd say yes. One of the ladies, not even as a nurse, we were painting her house, and she was 99 years old. She was out in her garden, just gardening all day.
Yeah.
She goes, well, I don't stop. All my friends stopped working, moving, running around, and they died.
Yeah.
So that's a huge deal.
For sure.
You can't just stop. And your dad wouldn't even want to. I know my dad talks about retirement. I think my dad might be a little better than most at doing nothing when he wants to. But you don't want to be bored.
No.
And this conversation me and Rick have all the time. I don't want to hire people to run this whole business. Then I'm going to literally have to build a new business.
For sure.
Because what am I going to do with I can't hunt and fish every day, all day. I will not enjoy it after a while.
Right.
So that's a big deal. I would like to keep working. I don't need to hire people in certain areas yet. And if I do, it's only going to have me find something else to do.
Right.
Yeah, which is huge. Your dad's awesome. I try to always trying to get him to move to Florida.
Yeah.
And just pull dumpsters around for us.
I wish he would.
Yeah,
I really do.
Yeah.
I love him to death, and I hate that. I hate to sit here and tell you that I wish he would move to Florida.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, right? My dad's not leaving this state until my grandmother passes away. Then you got a shot, okay? Yeah. And I really hope that don't happen anytime soon. Sure. But that's the reality of it. Is as long as Grandma's still around, Dad ain't going nowhere.
This makes sense. That's good. He's such a good guy.
But here's the thing. As soon as you get him to move to Florida, my mom will move.
Oh, yeah.
She'll load up and go with me tomorrow.
Yep.
He won't. So as soon as we get him to Florida, I'll have an option to move.
I got to go talk to her. That's my recruitment thing. I go talk to your grandmother. Be like, move to Florida, and that'll be my recruitment.
We need to go to Florida.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, she's going to be like, yeah, I'm all for it. Then she won't either. But yeah, I would love for Dad to, to move somewhere like that and enjoy life a little more.
Well, him and Amy seem to be doing really well, and I keep telling Amy all the time, like, listen, I don't know how you got that guy, but don't mess this up.
Yeah. Well, he tells me
she's great too, of course.
I like both of them.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's my dad, but I like Amy as well. And my dad, he said, he's like, what do you think if Amy and I moved in together, or if we bought a house? I'm like, okay. Yeah. Hey, dude, whatever makes you happy.
He was like, that was easier than I thought it was going to be.
Whatever makes you happy, right. As long as, and I do believe that they're good for each other. They complement each other well. It's just to get both of them to not be so nervous around everybody would be the biggest thing, Yeah. They care to impress way too much. And
we all do that a little bit.
For sure.
We've all the little parties and stuff that we've done recently have all been at our house. So we've been cooking, or I've been cooking and on the grill and doing this stuff. And I love the hosting portion, but it's a little stressful. So when we got up here and your dad was cooking on the Blackstone, and I was like, I'm going to sit my butt right here and let him make dinner. And,
for sure.
It was really nice.
I loved when you got there yesterday or Sunday and you was like, you use the Blackstone without me?
Yeah. I like Jerry a lot. We sat on my back porch and just smoked cigars and talked for like 2 hours. Probably a couple of nights when he came down to visit.
Yeah.
I like him a lot. Really.
Yeah, I'm glad that he come down and got away just from here for a little while because it helps him. But so if you were to just sit back and say, okay, I'm going to hire these people to come to work at this company, right? And it's going to free up a bunch of your time. Mm-hmm. What would be the other company you would do? Because obviously that's in the back of your mind.
Immediately it would be, let's get with Dad, learn exactly how to build homes, and bring a new age. You see some homes now that could be the same square footage and the same size and the same footprint, and you can tell who put a lot of thought into the house and who just built a home.
Yep.
And that's that. There's the new school and the old school, and I love a lot of the old school, but there's so many things that we have available to us now in new homes, different types of just lighting and outlets and just cool stuff that you can put in homes. I think you could build custom homes just better than anybody else, or as good as the best. You know what I mean? We have the people to do the work.
Right.
So that would be my next step. Would probably be, hey, I want to build 10 houses a year. And I mean, you should be able to make $50,000 to $100,000 per house.
Right.
And that would be the next step, I think.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, there's also the gutters thing. That's we've only mentioned it once or twice, but it's so right there for the taking. It's hard not to.
And here's the thing, right? When you're doing a roof, sometimes when you tear a roof off, you got to rip the gutters down anyway.
Yeah, we try to do our best, unless they're in really bad shape. We'll try to put them back perfectly. I do have a disclaimer now on all my tile roofs. We don't do tile roofs, but we'll tear tile roof off and put shingles back. I'm like, the shingles are quarter inch off your decking. The tile was 2.5 inches. Your gutter line might need to be readdressed, and we don't do gutters, so I don't, So I actually put that in my contracts now. And we have access through some of the stuff we were talking about earlier. We have access to make the most beautiful 6, 8, 10-page proposal with everything set up. And I'm like, I like my Word document that I turn into a PDF that has very little fine print at the bottom that's still in size 11 times the room, and it's very traditional. You can tell we're not trying to get over on anybody. Right. We're going to do a good job, and that's that. And we might have to address that if we're on a mobile home and mobile homes move when 6 guys are on it, and someone knocks down a painting off of somebody's wall or something like that for moving around, and then they try to not pay us or something, then that will be another learning moment. All right, we actually have to have more fine print in here, which I hate, because I'd really rather do handshake deals with a very minimal contract.
But you almost can't in this day and age.
I know, and we've been lucky, and that comes into weeding out the people you don't want to work for. Sometimes you don't know, but you can get once you've talked to someone for a long enough period to sign a contract for $20,000 for their roof, you usually have a somewhat feeling. Right. Because we put, conditions are 30% down, which I only enforce like 5% of the time, because usually I have a good conversation with the person. I'm like, we're going to get paid for this. It's no problem. I know the situation. For sure. And I tell them, and they're like, well, I need to send you 30%. And I go, no, you don't. I have that in there in case I feel like I really need to collect the 30% up front from you. What was I thinking? The other thing other than the the 30%, the conditional contracts. I can't remember exactly what I was thinking about. I was going to go a certain direction there. Yeah, I really lost that one.
I know on my side of it, at the end of the day, with my dump trailers and my other trailers, I could rent them out as cheap as I want, right? I could just go crazy and mark them out, and they could stay busy and not make me as much money, which would be fine too. But at a certain point, you can be too cheap, and then you get cheap renters, right?
Someone who thinks, oh, he doesn't have that much pride in this trailer.
This
I can
is
dump it.
And nothing parties like a rental, and exactly. I promise that's the truth. And so you got to be careful, because I would rather my trailer not rent as often and continue to do the ROI that it currently has, and it not rent as often versus renting more and come back beat up.
That's exactly right. And I could probably do, instead of 5 or 6 roofs a week, I could probably do 3 or 4 and make the same amount of money. Right. But my guys wouldn't have as much work. Right. So there's the small catch-22. My guys want to work 5 or 6 days a week, and so that they can make as much money as possible. So it doesn't matter if I sell a roof for a really high price, just because everybody else is, and we're just as good as them. Right. Better. We're going to treat you better, because you're not going to talk to some random person in the office. You're going to talk to the license holder, business owner.
Right.
If there's an issue, we're going to come fix it. So I feel like we can charge as much as anyone.
Yeah.
But I would sell less, and I couldn't keep my guys as busy. And when you have a crew as competent and considerate as ours, they treat our customers like it's their business.
Right.
It's huge. It's like, well, I want to do whatever I can I'll make less money and do more roofs to an extent. There is a bottom line number, and that's why I have a lot of these flippers, people who own 20 roofs, or 20 homes. I'm going to have to do all these roofs. I want to get your number down. I don't want to work for $1 less than this. I'm giving you the cheapest number that I can. Or not that I can, but that I want to.
Right.
I don't want your job for cheaper than that price.
Right.
So it does make it easier for the most part, because there's still somebody who's out there who's like, I'm not doing it unless we can get something. And a lot of times I go, well, then don't find someone else.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And I'm okay with that.
But sometimes we had this situation recently where there's a property manager and she works with like 300 homes. So yeah, you want to get in good with her, do good work for a cheap price. We've made her happy on like 3 or 4 roofs in a row. And then she had a different landlord. So even though she's the property manager, one of the homeowners, he liked to negotiate. And he's like, everybody else comes down. I was like, well, I can charge you 10% more, and then we can negotiate down. I'm giving you my best price because I want to do all of her work, the property managers. And for that one, I actually did. I was like, I'm actually going to do this roof for less than I want to, like $300 or $400 less. And I regretted it because we had a big argument that went great afterwards. They were so happy. But they wanted to have the argument because it was almost fun. And I was like, I'm over here. I'm going to puke. I'm stressed out. You know what I mean? And they're like, okay, great. I'll have the check in the mail. I'm like, I don't know what just happened.
Right. Yeah. No, and you're just going to have that, right? You're going to have people that like to argue, and you're going to have people that say, I get it all the time, right? I have friends of mine who call me, hey, what's it cost to rent a trailer? And I'll tell them, like, no. What's my price? Look, your price is the same price. Mm-hmm. Because when you go to Sunbelt or you go to these other places, you're going to be like, yep, I'm just going to pay it.
Yep.
But because we're friends, you want a discount. Look, man, be my friend and take care of me and pay what I'm asking.
I get both sides, but the truth is take care of the person who's trying to be have their own business. Take care of that friend. And so for us, I might take a little bit off for certain friends. The one that I did for like no money was for my best friend. My 2 best friends are basically like brothers, and they have the same grandmother. And I did her roof for like free. And I was like, you're getting a better deal than Josh and Casey are going to get. I promise you that, because we grew up with her too, and I love her. So we literally did that for almost no money, and that felt good. But when Josh and Casey called, I'm like, well, you guys have to pay for a roof.
Right. Yeah, hey, I took care of your mom, your grandma, but it's time for you to step up.
Exactly right.
You know, I'm all the time on watching short clips or listening to books or just motivational stuff and stuff about business. And I was watching one last night before we went to bed, and it was, I don't ever want to be paid more than what I worked for, but you're not going to pay me a penny less. And so if I told you I was going to make $1 million, I don't want you to pay me $1.5 million,
right?
Just because.
Right.
I only want my $1 million. I'm not taking the other. I'll leave it on the table just for you to have. But you will not only pay me $99. Will not happen.
Yeah, my dad used to tell a story, probably just a fake story, that just to kind of prove a point. A guy was building an apartment complex, and
Will you hand that here?
Yes, sir. And he stiffed the person who he was building it for, or the person who hired the contractor, the big company. He stiffed him on $1 million at the end of the day, and he might have got sued, or he might have just the guy made enough money, so he parted ways with him. But he stiffed the bricklayer for his Friday afternoon, for his Friday's 8 hours of work. And that bricklayer beat him to an inch of his life. So it's a 1 day's pay for a person who's putting his manual work, doing his job, breaking his back. 1 day's pay to $1 million is completely different between the two people. So the first person that gets paid is the people who are busting their butt on our roofs.
Yeah.
And that's why we have to keep them busy, because they need to make a lot of money. they want to make a lot of money. They earned a lot of money.
Right.
So we make sure we pay them very well.
Yeah.
And most of the time we'll, I'll always round up. Hey, at the end of the week, hey, this is it. All right, well, we're going to give you extra. I'm gonna make that instead of 6,000, it's going to be 6,200 or something like that. And they're happy to work for you.
Right.
And that's a huge thing. I've seen so many contractors walk into a place like Lowe's or an ABC Roofing Supply, and treat the people who are loading their trucks like they owe them because they're there spending their money there.
Right.
That's one of the first things that we discussed with one of our guys I was working with. Make them happy to see you.
Right.
So I've watched the face of employees when my competition walks in, and then when I walk in. And they'll go, oh, God, this guy again. Yeah, he spends a lot of money here, but he sure is a jerk. And then they see me, and we'll do anything. If we got to return some shingles, bring the pallet out. We're going to set it up nicely so you guys can set it all back. We're not just going to say, you guys deal with it.
Right.
So that's huge to the people because you're technically working with them.
For sure.
And as much as they need you, without the suppliers, we need them way more than they need us.
Yeah.
It is a 50-50, but it's we couldn't even start if they weren't bringing in the supplies. So that's one of the things that's huge. Everyone that we work with, when I'm wearing an All Coast Roofing shirt, I want them to be happy when they see us.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So we talk about that, right? And so, and this isn't business related. This is more just something that happened today. Mm-hmm. So while we was out, we went and had lunch at Applebee's in Seymour. I really like it. I know a lot of people say Applebee's is whatever, but I enjoy Applebee's, especially one in Seymour's pretty nice. And Easton had to go to the restroom. So Easton is my youngest boy, so he runs to the restroom. Literally, he runs back behind the bar, runs down the side, runs to the restroom. And he comes running back out and runs back the exact way he came. And a waitress had a thing full of drinks just come around the corner, and he hit his head on the waitress tray. And the waitress and the manager, they're all coming to our table and they're apologizing because he got drinks dumped on him and making sure he's okay. I'm like, guys, I'm so sorry. If you've got a mop, I'll go clean it up. Look, it's not your waitress's fault. It's his fault. He shouldn't have been running through your restaurant. And I heard several times while we were there that it just blew their mind that we weren't bent out of shape and upset and wanting. And they tried to give us free desserts, a free T-shirt. I'm like, look, it's his fault, not yours.
How sad is it? Our legal system works that way.
Yeah.
If someone slips at your house, they can sue you.
Yeah.
That's how. I don't see how it ever got to that point.
Yeah, I don't know.
You have to, as an adult or even just as a person, you have to be understanding of what you're getting yourself into. You can slip and fall anywhere. So I hate that. And you handle that exactly right. And I hate that they even have to act that way.
For sure, me too.
Like, I understand. I understand them being nice about it and not yelling at them, although
they should have.
You probably should have yelled at him too. So,
I did when he got back to the table.
Exactly. You were talking earlier about watching shorts and listening to books, and I think that the best thing for us to do to grow is, I think for the longest time it was reading books.
Yeah.
Any type of self-help or any type of niche, this for business, do this, and you don't have to take every word as gospel. You can say, all right, I read these 3 different books, and there is some contradiction between the books, and you get to sort that out for yourself, what you want to do.
Right.
And it also means that there's more than one way to do something.
For sure.
So I think that we have it a little bit lucky because we get shorts. So you're watching. So maybe you watch a really nice golf shot, and then the next clip is teaching you some of the most important things on investing.
Yep.
And so we have it a little bit lucky there. We don't have to try as hard as long as your algorithm includes some of that. Like
right.
Some people just have puppies and bikinis.
Right. But
as long as your algorithm has some people who are saying some smart things, we don't hardly have to try. But if you do, so I tried to when we started the roofing business. And definitely when I quit nursing, I couldn't listen to any more fantasy books. Anything that was like a Game of Thrones or something like that, which I've always been into. I'm a bit of a nerd that way. I couldn't listen to anything else because you have to be involved, and I would be thinking while I'm driving or while I'm mowing. I'm thinking about something else the whole time.
Yeah.
So that was a big step when I finally realized, hey, I can listen to a book that's nonsense and enjoy it again. That means I'm going the right direction. This is really cool.
Right.
But I always try to listen to something that's going to be actually helpful. So recently I've been listening to this book. Let me see if I can pull it up. It's a FBI negotiator about negotiation.
That's cool.
He made his rounds on YouTubes and Facebook and stuff, so you might have actually seen him at some point just talking. It's called Never Split the Difference. And I haven't finished it yet. I've been listening to it a couple hours at a time. Who's the guy? Chris Voss is the guy. So,
Okay.
So he's a FBI negotiator, and you know he has something to offer that's going to help you.
For sure.
So there's stuff like that. The first book that really changed my life was How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yeah, by Dan Carnegie.
Yeah, and that I try to listen to that.
Or Dale Carnegie.
I try to listen to it every year because all it is common sense that you already know.
Yep.
But when you it's like a game. You can go treat people right and see how they react to you, and instead of trying to win the conversation, you can see them be happy that you are willing to let them win and like you.
Yeah.
And listen, and it treats you, and everything that he says in there is so common sense.
Yep.
It's like listen to Jordan Peterson. He just says everything in the most articulate way you've ever heard, but you're like, yeah, I knew that. But if you don't actively try to do it, you'll forget. So I'll listen to that book, and then for the next 3 weeks, every interaction I'll have with a person will be a game.
Yeah.
Let me see how I can make them like me. How can I shut up long enough and let them talk? You know what I
Yep.
mean? And they think that I'm the best conversationalist ever when I didn't say a word.
Yep.
So, I mean, I know that's not what we're doing here, but...
Right. No. I get it.
But there's books like that can really help, and there's probably tons more that I haven't read. I try to do one or two type of self-help or just learning from people who are successful. Sometimes I disagree completely with them. I go, I don't like that route. But you can find something in the same genre which does it a little bit different, which is way better.
Yep. And that's my thing. So I can't sit down and just read books, okay, because I fall asleep.
Sure.
But I can listen to them. And I have, in my Audible, I have a ton of books. And there's, in the car industry, there's a guy by the name of Grant Cardone, okay, and he does a bunch of stuff. Yeah. And I don't always agree with all of the things he says, but at the end of the day, he's not wrong. It just that way works for him. And so when you look at that, you just have to take your nuggets out of each segment and move on.
With him, I want to take his knowledge and use it in a different way,
right?
Because he is an arrogant guy, but it works. You know what I mean? But yeah, you can learn from all of those people
for sure.
The Gary V's and stuff like that.
I like Gary V too. I don't understand him all the time, but
sometimes I feel like people did well in business and probably maybe shouldn't be speaking to thousands of people, giving them the same. Same thing with like me and Amber. I don't suggest that you find a girl, know her for a week, talk on the phone for a month, and decide to move in together and have her quit her job and move across the country.
Right. Because that doesn't always work.
It's mostly not going to work.
Right. But, another book, and I'm sitting here scrolling through this, right, because I have a ton of them. But I really like Eric Thomas. He's got a couple that I really like.
What is he talking about?
So he has, his is primarily like, my first book I listened to him was The Secret of Success. Mm-hmm. And it was just really about his life and then what he had to do to get where he is. And then he has one that he just released not too long ago. It's called You Owe You. And I loved it. At the end of the day, it was what we just talked about a few minutes ago, and it was just taking accountability for yourself.
Sure.
And look, there's nobody coming to save you. There's nobody going to come and do this for you. You have to do it. You have to quit making excuses, and you got to dig in.
And you're going to be happier for it.
For sure.
I don't know if you've ever listened to any Jordan Peterson or you know who that is.
Mm-hmm.
So he basically says the meaning of life is taking responsibility. And the more responsibility you can handle, the happier you're going to be.
Yeah.
And finding the limit of the responsibility that you can handle, and then making it happen that's it. Reaching your potential and having something to live for. Other than that, Jocko Willink, I tried to listen to some of his stuff. He'll make you feel like you really need to get it together.
Yeah.
Which sometimes I can't listen to too much of that because I'll be like, man, I'm really not living up to what I should be.
Maybe I'm not doing everything I can.
Exactly.
I'll tell you someone else I like is David Goggins.
So I only know him through Joe Rogan stuff.
Okay.
He's so intense, man.
He's so intense. But listen, he has a book, and let me find it here because I don't remember the name of it. Oh, it's called Never Finished. Go figure. And but just to listen to him talk, I don't even care what's in the book at this moment. But just to listen to him talk it just pumps me up, and I'm ready to get going.
He's so much.
Yeah.
He's so much. And he's talking about, I can't run a mile without stopping for a lemonade. And he's like, my knees blew out and I kept running.
Right.
So I can't relate with him as much, but I get the power of getting you in the right mindset to go do something that you don't think you can do.
Yeah. And for my book, for my Audible, and this is something that I need to get over. This is a personal thing that I can't stand. Whatever book that I'm listening to or purchase, I want the author of that book reading it to me, because there's seances and nuances in the way that they're going to tell the story of the book that someone like myself or you that's just reading the book to the listener they're not going to have that.
You're mostly listening to nonfiction type of books, I'm guessing, like self-help.
I'm listening to business, self-help, that kind of stuff, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get that. Some people don't have, like, if I wrote a book, I couldn't read it for an Audible. I don't have the voice for it. I think I would. I get boring after 2 paragraphs.
Right.
I tried to read to my daughters. I'm like, we need a shorter book. We need more pictures. Let me tell you a story because I can handle that, but reading it out loud is difficult for me. So, but I get that because what you said makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Because especially when you can tell, I think that they messed that sentence up. That one was supposed to have a little more nuance, and they missed it. Then it kind of takes you out of that mind frame of just listening. My wife loves that I listen to books because I'll be like, all right, I'll go do the dishes. Just nobody try to talk to me because I have my headphones in. I'm going to go mow the lawn. Anytime that something needs to be done at the house that's not fun, all right, I'm going to throw at least one headphone in because I don't want to be rude if someone does need to come talk to me. I'm going to knock out this stuff and enjoy it because I'm listening to something. But a lot of the stuff I'm listening to is silly fiction stuff that it's got wizards and stuff in it, but you know what? I enjoy it. It takes my brain a little bit away from the stress of all the things that I have going on.
Right. Well, and that's just the phase you're in, right?
Yeah.
You're at the point of it to where you can do that.
Yeah.
And you can have that distance. Because you can only do so much, right, in a day. You can only get so much done in a week. I don't remember who it was, but he was talking about his days, like my day's a 24-hour day, right? His is 6 hours. He works his days as 6-hour days. So his day has more days in it, or my day has less days in it than his does. My one day is his whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And so I thought that was interesting because the fact of the matter is you have to give up something somewhere, either sleep, time with family, or something, at least initially, to get stuff going. And I'm the one that gives up the sleep because I don't want to miss time with the kids and the wife of an evening, and the businesses that I have allow me that opportunity to do it later of an evening and still get it done. So I think that's the hard part.
There is, but that's some of those things. The sacrifices are needed, even to, like, if you want to be a good dad, the first thing you have to do is provide for your family.
For sure.
Protect and provide. But and it's sad to think back. I have pictures and stuff. My middle daughter, I don't remember her first 2 years of life very well, like with any real good memories I can think back.
For sure.
And that was when I went to night shift for 2 years. But that started the process. And, I feel bad about that, but it was also going to take care of her in the long run.
Right.
I hope I can buy her a real nice car when she turns 16 and pay for some college if she doesn't get any scholarships, and possibly once I know she's actually a good person when she's 25 or 30, maybe it'll get her a first house. But there is sacrifices, and it's so much harder nowadays. Like with me and Amber, Amber's killing it right now, working from home.
Right.
And she's had a really good job the whole time that I met her, except for when she quit her job and moved and literally restarted at Chili's as a server for like 6 or 8 months. And then she finally got a good job, and she's been doing so good. But she struggles with, she wants to be the absolute best employee. She treats her job where she's an employee like she started the business, like I started mine. They're so lucky to have her. But they know it, which is good.
Right.
But she also wants to be the best mom in the world. And she is great. She's so good. She'll take, but she doesn't have much time for anything. So she's losing a little bit of sleep, but then she knows she has to sleep if she's going to get up early to go back to work.
Right.
So I think that's the time frame that you're living in as your 30s to early 40s. Yeah, you got to go hard for a little while.
Yep.
And and we make time. Like I'll take Allie to tennis every Tuesday night, and for the first couple of years, I would have just said no. I'd been like, listen, I can't. I'm not. I cannot do it.
Right.
Now it's like I'm making that happen.
Yeah.
So
now I don't have a choice.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
have to be present at least a little.
Yeah. Because pretty soon they get pretty big out of nowhere, and you're going, they're almost not little anymore.
Right.
So you got to spend some time.
Well, and that's where I'm at right now with Trayton. My oldest, he's 12. And it's like, dude, I blinked 4 times, and here you are.
Yeah, he threw the keys to you earlier. I was like, did he drive here? What?
Right. So, if I go do anything for the trailer company, he wants to go with me. He wants to be there. And I think that's great.
That's huge. Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, why can't you just be a kid, man? Like, go play. I don't want you to think it has to be work 24/7.
Sure, because you want that for him.
Hard work is hard work, and you have to do it.
Well, and he can put that hard work into sports.
For sure.
Into playing. That's where I did it. You know what I mean? That's where Rick did it. Until work becomes, hey, I actually have to go provide for myself. If they can have I know he plays baseball. Here he's pretty good.
Yeah.
So he's probably putting work in for that. That's huge. That's a work ethic. So that's huge. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of things that you kind of, I don't know. What even though the stuff that I'm talking about right now, it's like, all right, that's just where I'm at right now. I've learned these things, but I might disagree with some of them at some point. But as of right now, I feel pretty good about these things and that I've learned in how to live life as best as possible.
For sure.
Yeah, for myself, for family, for everybody. And with my girls, it's difficult too because my oldest, I'm like, do you want to go to college? She says that doesn't really sound like fun. I'm like, well, that's fine, but it's not the fun part. Are you gonna have a work ethic? Because you're gonna have to figure it out some way.
Right.
And my middle daughter, she knows she gets it a little bit more. Completely different personalities, and then my youngest is kind of like her older sister, but she's also the youngest, so she's like, I don't want to do anything. I just want to hang out.
Right. Right.
We asked her because we feel bad. You spend so much time with one of our daughters in sports. We're trying to get another daughter into some sports, and she's into tennis, so we're finally getting her to do that. We spend so much time with soccer with my middle daughter. And we're like, hey, Millie, that's our youngest. Do you want to, let's get you into some sports. She goes, what's the easiest one?
Right.
And you're going, dang it.
Right. And it's funny. I spend a ton of time with Trayton and Waylon for baseball. Mm-hmm. And I almost feel bad to a certain extent because the other two, for the longest time, didn't do anything. Mm-hmm. Because you can only do so much. Again, you got 3 daughters, so you understand.
Especially when you go all in.
You can only do so much all in.
Yeah.
And so now, and we pushed our daughter to do like gymnastics and dance and to try other things. And she's doing softball, which she's trying. And she's starting to like softball, but she didn't originally. But now she's found horses, right? Which is stupid expensive, but it's what she likes.
Not horses.
Right. That's what I said. Like anything but those.
Right. Good Lord.
But now, so I make sure, because lessons are $160 for 4 of them, which is at the end of the day not terrible.
Sure. It's a lot of money once you do it more than twice.
Right. When you're paying $160 a month at this point to be that way, and it's like, oh, that's only once a week, once out of 7 days. If I really want you to be good at it, we need to do it 2-3 times a week.
Right.
Yeah. Dad ain't got that kind of cash laying around. So I just try to put it into perspective. Whenever we're sitting there looking at things, it's like, okay, I spend. If Trayton came to me right now and said, Dad, I need to go do this for baseball and it's going to make this difference, I wouldn't care what the price was. Yep. I'd write the check and make it happen.
Yep. And
so I'm trying to make sure that our younger two have that opportunity and have that option. Easton, boy, I don't know what he wants to do. He's like Millie. He's free-spirited. He's wild, and I wouldn't have him any other way. But
sure.
But yeah, he wants to play soccer. I don't understand soccer in the slightest. So,
well, I played baseball my whole life, and in football, and I did play tennis in high school, but I never even cared for soccer. But now Avery's all in, and it's fun to watch now that she's playing really well.
Right.
So we're in. I tried so hard to stay out of soccer, but she loves it, and it is really cool. And there's only so much that I want my girls involved. I didn't want to push them hard into softball. That's a huge commitment too. Mm-hmm. My niece plays softball. She's playing like AAU. She's playing like 5 nights a week. It seems like. But I want them all in sports. So even Millie, who doesn't know, she's 6, but
right.
But you need that when they get to be 13 to 15, 17 years old. They have to have a distraction away from the bad people that they're around.
Well, here's the deal, right? Then that you hit it nail on the head there for me is, or head on the nail, whatever it is. But you
nailed it.
You nailed it. And so for me, that's the thing, right? If you keep your kids busy, they don't have the time to go do those other things. Nope. And when I was a kid, I didn't understand that. My dad was always, "Hey, we're going to go do this. If you're not playing sports, we're working this. We're cutting wood. We're doing something."
Yep.
And I was like, "No, I want to hang out with my friends." And he's like, "Nope, we're doing this." And I got to hang out with my friends too, so It's not like it was always. But now I understand it.
Well, I think that's why the sports is a bigger deal, even than hey, let's just stay busy. Let me be excited about something.
For sure.
I want to go to All-Stars. I want to do this, which means I know I have to dig in. You're teaching them work ethic. You're helping them stay in shape with it, which is huge. That's one thing I'm missing with working so hard. I can't seem to figure out a time to just make myself physically healthy.
Right.
But hopefully that's the next step. But so you're doing you're getting them a work ethic. You're teaching them dexterity with skills with their hands and their feet. Mm-hmm. Even hitting a baseball, that's going to stay with them forever. Throwing something, throwing a ball. So dexterity, you're teaching them work ethic, and you're getting them wrapped up. Their mind's not just, oh, this is another thing that I'm doing this afternoon with Dad. This is I'm wrapped up in this. I'm studying it when I can. I'm thinking about the Saturday morning game, Wednesday at school.
Yep.
And instead of going and doing something silly after school with my friends, I'm going to go find another friend who's invested in this too, and we're going to practice ground balls. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so it's huge. It's huge for life, I think.
Yeah.
So that's why we got to figure out what to do with Millie.
Right. And same thing here with Easton. I got to figure out how that works and what will work for him. Mm-hmm. And I say it all the time. I don't force my kids to play any of the sports they play. Outside of Rylan, I forced her to play softball the first year. And that was simply because, hey, you have to do something.
They need a nudge sometimes. I get it. And she probably loves it now.
And she does. She enjoys the crap out of it now. And my boys.
How old's Rylan?
Rylan is 11.
What position is she playing, or is she kind of?
She's kind of just everywhere.
Everywhere.
Third and shortstop.
Oh, that's cool. Is she right in it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool.
So the boys, though, Trayton, because Waylon is only as good as Waylon is because Trayton forces him to be that good.
Sure.
Trayton is good. If Waylon continues to do it, Waylon should be better theoretically than Trayton, but it's strictly because of Trayton. Mm-hmm. Because when they're out throwing or whatever, Trayton will take the time when he's in the mood.
How old's Waylon?
Waylon is 8. Okay. Well, 9.
Okay. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, hold on. I got to think about that for a second. He's 9. He'll be 10 in December, I think.
No, I get it. Trust me.
So his brother is 3 years older than him and is 3 years more advanced in baseball than he is. But like when I take, my assistant coaches tell me this all the time, Waylon doesn't have practice sometimes on Tuesdays, so I'll take him to Trayton's and he'll practice with Trayton's 12-year-old team. He don't miss a beat. He does everything they do. He does it at the same pace they do. And they're like, God, I wish he could play for us. And
Wow.
age reasons he can't.
Sure.
But they're like, he's just so good. He's so much further ahead of where these 12-year-old boys are, but it's because he has a 12-year-old boy to look up to. Knowing that now, I wish when Trayton was 8, 9, and 10 that I would have found somebody who was 12, 13, 14 that he could have worked with and spent time with and grown up with to be able to make that advantage better.
That would have been hard to do if it's not a sibling. So
For sure.
I 100% agree with what you're saying. My brother is 5 years older than me. We had a great relationship only because he was nice. Because most older brothers don't want their younger brother around at all, especially that age difference.
For sure.
So I played tackle football when I was 14 with 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, or 12 to 17-year-olds. So I was trying to tackle a full-grown man when I was 12 and doing well at it. So when I went out to play football for any team, I think they're my age. Oh, these are little people,
right?
Even though I was still small, you know what
right?
I mean? So, and Rick was really good at baseball, but I was really good at baseball because I was playing with him all the time.
Yeah.
So he could throw the ball to me 75 miles an hour when I was 8, and once you can handle that, you know what I mean? Then you're going,
sure.
Well, nobody can throw the ball from shortstop to first base harder than he can, so I'm going to handle everything.
Right.
So you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And it's a huge advantage for any younger sibling. That's why most of the professional baseball players that you hear about, when they were 6 years old, they were playing with the 11-year-olds.
Yeah.
Playing the major leagues for youth league.
Right.
Just moving them up. And, that's great, but usually there's a size thing there too. I was always tiny, but me and my brother are the exact same size. I might be a half an inch taller than him. He was huge growing up compared to everybody else. Like to weigh in for Pee Wee football, he had to be down to just his underwear to make weight. I was tiny the whole time. I was like, you at least got a couple years of being bigger than everybody.
Right.
So that's the difference. But him being the older brother that he has been is the whole reason that we can do this. Because and I realize how lucky I am to have had somebody in my life who was all he wanted to do was play with me. It wasn't get out of here, kid. I'm trying to hang out with my friends. So I was extremely lucky.
Very fortunate, for sure, because that doesn't always happen. And some of that probably falls back on your parents, because I know at least at my house, if Waylon wants to go out and play with Trayton, and when his friends are there, play with Trayton and his friends, Waylon's way littler than any of them, right? So he'll sometimes come in boo-hooing because they, at the end of the day, out-muscled him or whatever. And I'm like, hey, man, look, if you want to go out there and play with them, you're going to have to suck it up and go take care of it.
You're going to lose a bunch.
Yeah.
You're going to have to get good at it.
Right. And then so now it's to the point to where when Trayton has friends over, Waylon just hangs. And it's because Waylon proves that, hey, I can do this. I can be there with you, and I can hang with you, and I can make that happen. Those two together sometimes when they've both had a long day and it's 8 o'clock at night and now they're starting to practice baseball, sometimes they get at each other, but for the most part, man, it's just they like to work with each other.
And that's going to hopefully follow through life.
Yeah.
So that's why, I don't even know if I would tell people to go into business with close friends or family members. But with me and Rick, it works. He's the hands-on guy, and he likes it, and he's good at it. And I don't know how good I am at it, but I'm the behind-the-scenes, the paperwork, the phone calls, the numbers guy, and I'm learning to get good at it. But how are we so close, so much alike, yet perfectly opposites, and work well together?
Right.
So it just works so perfect for us.
Right.
And customers love it. They're like, you guys twins? I'm like, we really don't look that much alike.
Right. Right.
But it's again, I've done a lot of things that I might not recommend for other people to do, but if they have it set up the way, if you meet a girl who clearly has the same exact, thought process on the future, and you guys can have a goals to set together, then yeah, go for it. And then if you have a family member who is, does what you can't do happily while you happily do what you can do, and you guys make a full team, go for it.
For sure.
Yeah. It's, at the end of the day, very few times have we argued about money. And every time that we have, maybe twice in 5 years that we've had the business, both of us have realized I'd rather him make more money than me. Both of us. So we don't fight over it. We go, no, that's fine. You take extra. And then we go, oh, yeah, never mind. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's huge.
For
we
sure.
both want success for each other. So that's really, really a good system we have.
For sure.
On. Yeah, we're lucky.
Well, and the thing is, right, and the thing that I'm realizing, even with my podcast, I've realized it, but I just haven't found the right people to help me yet because I can't afford to pay people to do what I need them to do here, right, because this doesn't make any money currently, is it takes a team. If you want to be successful, it takes a team. You cannot do it yourself.
Yeah, because you can't drop every other thing to do it, because then if it fails, what are you going to do?
Right.
So you have to do as much as you can.
Right.
And even for people like you and me who will work till 1 a.m. while everyone finally goes to sleep and your phone stops ringing.
Right.
There still is only so much you can do.
For sure.
Like getting ready to come up here for a week. I was working till 10:30, 11 at night trying to do all of this week's work and all of next week's work because I had to have everything set up for this week, and I'm not going to have next week to set up for the following. So I had to do 3 weeks worth of work. So I would force myself to come downstairs. My office is upstairs. Come downstairs at 5:30, spend 2 hours or 2.5 hours with family.
Yep.
And then I'd go right back up almost every day that week. But then I got to drive off to Indiana going, I think I handled it. I think I'm good.
I think I have it under control. Now, you're always going to have fires, right?
Exactly.
But, hey, I think I have the best handle on it I can when I leave, and it's going to be okay.
Yeah, exactly right.
And for me, that's the thing. When we talk about business, when it comes to working on stuff, I'm very knowledgeable. There's not much that we can't do. We grow up poor. And so, you don't call a plumber to come fix the plumbing at your house. You don't call a mechanic to come fix or you don't take your car to someone to get fixed. You do it all. And so growing up, we had that opportunity. And now Tyler and I, Tyler's my younger brother, obviously, but I can't call him my little brother anymore. I have to call him my younger brother. And but he is very good at fixing things and working on stuff, and I am too. But honestly, there's times where he does things, and I'm like, God, I wish I could have done that.
Sure.
And I just much rather you do it at this point. And so when I look at business and I look at going into business, and there's a couple things that we're looking to do, I expect to include Tyler because there's sides of it that he can do for me that I don't want to do.
And he brings that talent, that skill that will help you be able to do more.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to that, that's I'm looking forward to that. We have a really good relationship now. Now me, Dad, and Tyler have a really good relationship, and it's never been bad. It's just there were some rocky things through the past, that's family.
That's family.
And family and business typically don't work.
Listen, I still can't follow my dad on Facebook. We're friends,
right?
But I'm unfollowed because I just shake my head at this guy. I'm like, no, what are you doing, Dad?
Well, there's been many times where Tyler and I'll call each other. Did you see what Dad posted yesterday?
And I'll say, no, I did not, because I have not followed him for 6 months.
Right. But I just, everything is great.
That's good. That's good, man.
So if you had one piece of advice, if you could have someone standing in your corner 10 years ago when you got into this and they gave you a piece of advice, what do you wish it would have been?
It's very easy. When you make a plan and you go, okay, I think that'll work, just do it.
Yeah.
Stop planning. I mean, keep planning, but stop only planning. Do it. Like I think I mentioned earlier, me and Rick, we would make a goal for a year from now, and instead, I think it's happened 5 times in the last year and a half. Hey, it would be like 3 days later. Why are we waiting? Why don't we do that next week?
Right.
Do it. And and if it doesn't work, then all right. So maybe you made less money this month, and you step back. But it's worked every time for us.
Right.
So every time we've decided to step up and go to the next step, our whole business has changed.
Yeah.
We're like a real company now. And
right.
We're like really doing this now, and we're actually being successful at it, not just getting by. So that's what I would say. When I first came to I told you about that. I first came to my brother and Joel years before we started a roofing business. Say, hey, why don't I go get a roofing license? I shouldn't have waited for them to tell me. I should have went and got my roofing license and said,
right.
let's do this.
Right.
That would have saved us 5 years probably.
You'd be that much further ahead.
Yes. So that's what the absolute advice would be. Maybe don't sell your house and go in on something, but if you have a plan that sounds like legitimate and you're willing to do it, you know that you're willing to do it and you want it, just implement it right away.
Yeah.
I haven't had anything that's failed that route yet. I technically, I guess we had. We just had a second crew start, and they're not as good as our first crew.
Yeah.
So they don't work for us anymore. And we had a lot of work, and we said, you know what? Maybe we don't want to have that much work. So we just eased right back off. I said, all right, we'll figure it out. But we just went for it.
Right.
And that was just in the last 2 months. But everything's up to then, and it will continue. We'll figure out what we want to do.
Right.
Just go for it. Maybe plan for a week, but you don't need to say next year or in 3 years. All right, make your 3-year goal, and then start today, and you might have it 3 months later.
Right.
Yeah. So.
And to tie into that, a lot of people, and my podcast was that way for me. When I very first said, hey, I'm going to do a podcast, it was, okay, I need to make sure I get the best mics. I got to get the best visual. I got to get the best audio. I got to get the best lighting. And even today, whenever I turn my lights on, I'm like, this is the one thing that I want to get better at is the lighting. And really, it's all of it that I still need to get better at. But don't worry about it being perfect.
Yep.
That's the biggest thing for me is don't worry about it being perfect. You're going to make mistakes. It's not going to be great. But if you do it now and you just do it like you said, it will continue to get better and better and better.
I've heard that on related to podcasts a lot.
Yeah.
Like, hey, guess who doesn't need to spend $3,500 on equipment? Take your iPhone out and start talking about what you want to talk about.
Yep.
And if it works, you're going to start to grow and you're going to do better conversations and you're going to learn. I was nervous to come in here because I don't talk real well, especially about myself.
Right.
Usually I just I can't think of what to come next. I'm like, oh, do I want this to sound better? And instead, it's just like, just go talk. You know what I mean? And one of the things I thought of is, hey, I love the idea of podcasting at some point. So go be real bad about it one time. Go stink. You know what I mean? It's fine. And then do 10 more that you're going to suck at then too. And maybe you'll start to learn how to talk.
Right,
you
for
know
sure.
what I mean? So it's exactly, is that it. Just go. And I'm not going to say it's going to work out every single time. But then you'll find out and you'll have done it. You'll have no regrets to have tried. And
even if it fails,
yeah.
you still learn something.
Absolutely.
And that's my thing. I love learning. And again, I like to learn about successful people. And so like Mr. Beast, who is all over YouTube and TikTok and all of that, in one of his videos, he was just, that's what he talks about. He talks about just do it. He's like, the first 10 videos you do, they're going to get no views. But you have to show up as if you're getting 1 million views. And you just do it. And then 2 years is going to go by and you're like, look at me now. That's all that I do for a living. And I'm so glad that I've done it. My first few videos didn't get any views then. And even with this small amount of content that I've been able to put out via the Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Buzzsprout, which is who my podcast is through, getting the most exciting thing for me, and you can ask Cass, the kids, my dad, is getting to see the views happen. And so like you'll post something and I hit my first 500 views in like the first 10 episodes that I put out. First 8 episodes.
Felt so good.
Yeah, I was like, holy shit, people are listening to this. Yeah. And even till now, when I've not actually released anything for a month and a half just due to personal reasons with getting everything changed over, getting to this studio, along with some things that happened in life, I still get a weekly update hey, you got 10 downloads this week. I'm like, fuck, that's fantastic, because I haven't done anything for it.
How many have you done here in this one, in this studio?
This will be my second real
So
deal.
this is your new setup.
This is my new setup.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome. You got the great microphone. So you have what? Because when I'm weird, man. I was like, yeah, I'm going to start a podcast. It's going to be about fishing, hunting, golf, books, business. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like, well, that's not going to work. You're going to have to either get people interested in talking in you. If you're not famous, there's not really a reason for them to just listen to whatever you want to talk about.
Right.
So you have to have a niche, like what you're doing. But you have the whole setup, man, and I think it's great. I think it's really awesome.
Yeah.
And it's fun. This is awesome. I mean, we would probably have the same conversation. This is about the same conversation that me and your dad had on my back porch.
Yeah.
And I think it's awesome.
And for me, that's truthfully, if it does big things in the future, that's great.
Yeah,
Truthfully, I'm 100% on board if something was to take off and I get to be a full-time creator and I get to have a space
How
and
cool
then I
would
get
that
to
be?
teach other people, or I get to bring, one of my big goals would be to get somebody else to do all the editing and the video stuff. Ideally, I need to have 3 cameras, and I need a guy sitting back on a switchboard. When you start talking, he pushes a button and it goes to you, and the flip back and forth and all of that. And I'd love to get like a high school student who's in media, and that's what they do for us.
Yeah,
right?
that's the way to go. Probably more difficult than it sounds, but you'll run into that person at some point and you go,
sure.
this might work. So, darn it. You're podcasting, you're saying you want to have somebody who's doing this and who's doing that. That's all to come. And honestly, the first thing you need to do is get good at what you're doing, and you're actually really good at what you're doing. And you need the voice. You have a really good radio voice, which isn't
Right. I hear that all the time.
Isn't
believe it or
that
not.
fake radio voice? It's just every time I've ever heard my voice on an audio, just even on a phone, when I can hear my voice come back to me, I'm like, oh, dang it, is that really what I sound like?
Right.
So I probably can't listen to this, but
Right.
but that is a big deal. Having a voice that people like to listen to, being interested. I think that's the best part. Just like I said, me and your dad probably had the same conversation. It's a conversation you could have with your friends anywhere, which is, especially when you, as much as right now, it's a lot for you to learn different things from people. It's almost like you're getting a self-help book from each person. And like I said earlier, you might take some of that and go, I don't really care for that, or
Right.
I'm glad that I've heard that opinion or that side of it, but I'm not going to take off and run with that. So I think I think you have a dual purpose for it, and I think it's great, honestly. Yeah.
And it's, it's fun, man, and I enjoy it. And I've got the stuff to do 3 mics, and I'm still learning. And I like to watch other people and see how they do theirs. And I love being a student. It turns out, which I hated school, but I love being a student.
So I would go in first couple of roofs that I ordered, because there's an order for a full roof is a big deal.
Right.
I went in and I was like, yeah, I have a roofing license, and yes, I've been around roofing, and yes, I own a business. Can you tell me what I need to order for this roof?
Right.
And they were like, what? I'm like, listen, I know I look like an idiot,
Right.
but I'm fine with that.
For sure.
Because,
Me too.
Because in 6 weeks, I'm going to know this portion. And every once in a while, I'll be like, hey, do you have that thing where, and they'll be like, this? And I'm like, yeah, I think that sounds about right. And they're like, you don't know that? And I'm like, nope, I do now. Thanks. You know what I mean? And you're just learning. And that's another Jordan Peterson thing. Anything you go into, be okay with looking like a fool, because why wouldn't you be if it's new to you? Why wouldn't you be? Why wouldn't you look like you don't know anything about something if you don't know anything? And how are you ever going to learn unless you go, I don't know anything.
Right.
Teach me. And so I think that was a huge deal for me in the beginning too. And then I have to catch myself sometimes when I'm feeling too good too.
Right.
I'm like, all right, calm down.
Right.
Go in there and be humble and be. And I have a lot of reasons to be humble, so that helps. But
Right.
but
Yeah. It's nice. I've learned how to edit sound, video, how to put the two together and make them mesh and work. And so in the future, whenever I get somebody who is
it takes so much more time than people think.
Oh,
Because I've done videos. I've done fishing videos.
that's terrible.
It's and I haven't had to do audio with video and connect, but I've seen it. I know how, because just to do like add a song in at the beginning of a video and then splice in different stuff, and you can get hours in and then just mess it up. And then you can get it completely done, and for some reason that file doesn't want to work in 6 weeks. That hurts. The first YouTube video I ever uploaded got 246,000 views in a week.
Damn.
And then it was a hunting video, so then it went to an 18 and older restriction, and I think it's got 12 views in the last 12 years.
Right.
So I was like, oh, this is easy. And then but that was also YouTube. If you posted something 15 years ago, you got 30,000 views a day. Because
they're trying to help.
But there also wasn't that much stuff out there.
Yeah.
Now there's people uploading, there's like, I don't know, I would just be wrong, but 1,000 hours a second is getting uploaded to YouTube.
Right.
So you're either one of the people that people watch, or you're not getting watched. So
Right.
that's another reason to really, once you start you have this studio, start making phone calls to people who own businesses. Hey, just come chat. It'd be fun. It's no big deal. 15 minutes. If we go longer, that's because we're having a good time.
Right.
So I think that this could be very successful. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I really like it. And for me, with wanting to grow a marketing company or marketing agency, we should say, along with doing my podcast long term, and I say that because I have this bad thing to where I don't like relying on people. I absolutely hate relying on somebody else. And that's something that personally I need to work on, because if I want to be successful and I want to be larger than a mom and pop, you have to rely on other people. And you're dealing with that right now with your business.
Exactly. I got a phone call on, I don't golf all the time. It doesn't sound like I just sit back and answer my phone on the golf course. We just drove up to Indiana for a 1-week vacation, and I've golfed 5 times in 3 days.
Right.
It's been awesome, to be perfectly honest.
Did you get any golfing in yesterday?
Yeah, I think I did 36 holes yesterday.
Oh, shit. Even with the rain?
With the rain.
Nice.
We were the only people out there. But I'm from Florida. This rain was fine. We were good. So we were literally, I got a call on like the 10th hole. It was like, hey, is your crew coming today? And I just, my stomach, all the stress hit me again, because I was finally getting really confident, like, all right, everything's handled. Well, my brother's brand new iPhone, that's perfect. We've spent all the money on it. There should be no issue. The SIM card just stopped working the night before.
No.
So a couple of different things happened, and Monday was a rough day for us, and it took a toll on me yesterday. I think I was smoking a cigar and drinking whiskey at 10:30 after the first 18 holes in Amy's garage. So it was a rough midday. I was like, I don't want to go talk about my business tomorrow. We're no good. You know what I mean? And but it was always fine. It all went well, and Rick handled it all and talked to all the customers and explained everything, and everyone's going to be super happy, and they're all going to get good jobs. But that's one of the things you have to deal with.
Yeah.
And I had a setback for a couple hours where I was very, very excited. After 5 years, I was leaving for a week and didn't have to worry. And then Monday morning.
Right, the first day of the week. It's like, well, shit, here that is again.
So, and then after finally and everything's fine. It's great. And Rick's handling all that. And stuff like that is going to happen.
Right.
And you got to be okay with it, or you're just going to end up not living life.
For sure. Well, man, again, I greatly appreciate it. I know my podcast doesn't do a ton for you with being all the way in Florida, but hopefully somebody gets a download and they have family and friends that live down there, and they're like, hey, I heard of this other roofing company, and go check them out. So, again, I just appreciate you taking the time out of your vacation to come and hang out with me for a little bit. And, if you're in the market for a roof and you live in the area, All Coast Roofing sounds like they're looking for some more work. So just get a hold of them, and they'd be more than happy to take care of you guys. So
I really appreciate it, man. Honestly, it's exciting to be able to talk about something from a semi-successful standpoint finally. It feels like, you've done some good work and made some things happen. I think next time I come up here, you probably don't want to carry all this stuff down to Florida if you guys ever visit. We should get your dad in here and just have a conversation and maybe smoke a cigar or something. And I think that would be fun to listen to.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'm down. I wish Dad would come and do one of these.
Heck yeah,
and
man.
I'm sure he would.
He's good to talk to because he'll tell you when you're telling him something, he'll go, "That's right." And you're going, "That is right."
Yeah.
And he makes you feel good.
My favorite thing is if it's not, he's like, "I don't think so."
No, yeah, he will too. That's great. That's great, man. I love talking with your dad.
So.
I appreciate you having me come in and talk. And honestly, I've had a really good time.
Yeah, me too, man. And for me, it's just getting to meet new people, getting to talk about new stuff.
Learning,
man, and I'm super excited for that. So, as always, thanks again. And, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.